Hello, I am Rebecca Smith and welcome to our live Monday Q&A with Coach Rebecca session. I'm excited to be back with you. So I'll be here every Monday, 4:30 Pacific, answering whatever questions you have. So if you have questions, go ahead and type them in and I will do my very best to answer them live. And let me just make sure I've got my screen pulled up here so that I can see if you guys ask me any questions. And away we go. Okay, so my first I'll give you a little bit of an intro on myself if this is your first time meeting me. I'm a high performance coach and I have a master's in sports psychology, and what that all means is that I help primarily kids and teens who are athletes, a lot of whom are gymnasts and swimmers, a lot of individual sport athletes. That's kind of my favorite spot. But I also work with athletes who are over 18 and people who are in team sports, etc. And I help them link up the mind and body so they can perform at their best when it counts. And I'm here answering questions. And what I do is help people build confidence and find their flow. And I get a lot of questions about how to build confidence. So that's the first question that I'm going to tackle here today, is just the simple one: how do you build confidence? And I'm sure if you guys think back to, what was a time in my life when I was really confident, you can look back and see some trends or some things that went into your training, into your life that allowed you to feel really confident. So I'm going to refer mostly to Bandura's research from the 70s just because I really jive with it as far as how to build something called self-efficacy. And that's that feeling of essentially, I can do it. I feel like I can do it. That's confidence. That's the confidence in the way that an athlete needs it. The ability to walk out on the field or on the court or in the gym and go, I can do it. I got this. So there are 6 things that I'll go over, 6 different ways to build confidence. And the thing to know, and I kind of say this all the time, but everybody's different. So what makes me feel confident might be different from what makes you feel confident. So that's why I'm giving you all 6, and you can kind of decide, which ones of those really work for me and which ones of those don't. And that's okay if they don't work for you. And if you are a coach or a parent, just know not everybody's motivated the same way. So while one person may need like a big cheering section, one might be like, don't look at me, it makes me nervous. So here are the 6 ways you build confidence. Number 1 is past performances. So this one's kind of a no-brainer, right? If you have a successful performance, then you feel confident. If you have an unsuccessful performance, you feel less confident. So the way that you can apply this is to take skills and break them into chunks. And then each little chunk you do successfully. And you keep building success and you keep building success. And then your past is full of successes instead of failures. And if you've got a bunch of failures in your past, that's okay, because you can start building confidence through successes. And just know that it doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be doing the entire performance totally perfectly every single time. But what you want to do is kind of start taking down the ratio of successes to failures. So you kind of want to set yourself up to stretch, but not to the point where you're going to be falling short consistently. So and it also comes into play, these past performances, where if you start out strong, that doesn't mean you can't build confidence. It just means you want to continue stretching and continue improving throughout the season. So now number 2 is vicarious experience. Now, this is the idea that, when you're training and your friend who's your same age and your same skill level is training alongside you, and then they get a skill that you're working on for the first time, and you're able to look at them and go, oh my gosh, if she can do it, I could probably do it. Now, this also goes the opposite way too, where if you're at a competition and maybe your teammate has a horrible routine, then you go, oh no, I'm at the same level, I've been training the same amount of hours, and she just bombed it. Does that mean I'm gonna bomb it too? And a lot of gyms notice this like domino effect of, oh my gosh, someone else did poorly, so that means that we're all gonna be bad because we all have been training the same way. So be careful with that one, because that doesn't necessarily have to be true. because somebody else might lose focus. They might, have something on their mind that doesn't necessarily play into their training. So you don't always want to go, uh-oh, someone else did bad. That means I'm going to fail. But at the same time, when you see somebody working alongside you that has a success, it can kind of pump you up and go, okay, if she can do it, I can do it. So that's the vicarious experience. Now, the next way that you build confidence is through verbal persuasion. I'm using all the Bandura big words, but this basically means talk. People saying, you got this, whether it's you saying it to yourself, like I can do this, kind of that inner pep talk, or sometimes it's your coaches being like, you can do it. I've seen you do it before. I know you can do it again. And then you kind of internalize it and go, okay, I think they're right. Your teammates, your parents, your mental coach, whoever it is that's giving you that feedback that you're on the right track, that starts to build confidence. So anytime that you notice that you're thinking like, I can't do it, this isn't going to go well, then you're eating away at your confidence. So you're much better off to start kind of scripting your own confidence building language. Like, I got this, I can do this. So you actually can add your language in wherever you think you might drop in confidence. So if you know that you get a little shaky right before you compete beam, you might stand there waiting for the judge to salute going, I got this, doing the Lori Hernandez, I got this, I got this. Kind of fill your mind with positive words so that way you don't have a chance to eat away at your own self-confidence. Now, if you have a negative coach or a negative parent or negative teammates, be ready to kind of block it out, because that really does affect the way that you feel about yourself and about your skills. So if you've got negative influences in your life, be ready to shut them off, because it's not going to help you with your confidence at all. Okay, now the next one is the emotional state. So this is you show up in a bad mood and then you get nothing done. And I think we've probably all had this where we're like, ugh, I'm here because I'm supposed to be here, but I'm not going to have any fun doing it. I'm just going to look at the clock and then it'll be over and then I can go home. So if you show up in a bad mood, you got to have some things in place to flip that around, because really a bad mood brings negativity, which decreases confidence, which decreases your skill level, which decreases your mood. So you're like super downward spiral of unproductiveness. And then you go back to the gym the next day and you've got this past experience of failure that also decreases your confidence. So that mood can be so critical. So make sure that you're kind of on top of, if I'm in a bad mood, what brings me up? If it's not my coach, because my coach is driving me crazy, if it's not my teammates, what does? Is it trying to put on a smile and help your friends who are in your group with you? Is it thinking about dinner when you get through it? Is it just get through this next set and just focus on doing the very best version of this set that you can do? But know that mood, that funky mood you're in, is eating away at your confidence. So try to give yourself some kind of emotional control strategies. That's something that I teach clients and something I teach in the Perform Happy community too, is how to control these types of emotions so that you can snap out of that bad mood, because that's going to eat up your energy and your confidence. Excuse me. Now we are on to the final one, imagery. So imagery, this is a concept that's similar to visualization. The difference is that visualization, the key word is visual. So it's only what you're seeing. So it's as if you're sitting watching a movie of yourself doing something. Imagery is it's very similar, but you're not just watching a movie, you're in the movie, you're feeling it, you're smelling it, you're tasting it, you're moving around in it. You have 360 degrees of senses. So if you can learn to do this well, and this is another thing that I teach clients, you learn how to incorporate all of those senses. It's as if it's really happening. So let's say there's a skill that you're working on that you're not that confident doing, that you really want to get more confident doing, but you're not yet. Or maybe it's a skill that you haven't learned yet because it's a little bit dangerous or scary. So you go into your mind, and I always recommend getting really relaxed first, taking some nice deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth, and just go through your entire body and relax, relax, relax. And the more relaxed that you get, the more that your brain's ability to go, that's just your imagination, kind of calms down, and your brain will actually start to go, wait, is this really happening? And that's what we want. We want to trick your brain into thinking that. So you completely relax. You go in. I usually like to do a little sensory check. So let's say you're going to do your beam routine. You go and you stand there next to the beam and you look around and you smell the chalk and you feel your feet on the ground and you feel your leotard on your body, and you go through all of the different senses before you get up to do the routine, and then, or the skill or whatever it is that you're training. And then you do that skill repeatedly. And usually the first few times it won't be super strong. You know, sometimes you can't control it and you fall in your mind. And sometimes it's blurry or it's black and white, or you're missing certain senses. Like, it's really hard to get the smell in there sometimes. Some people are more visual, so they'll see bright, vivid colors, but they don't really feel their body. And you also want to have thoughts and emotions. So if you want to feel confident, you need to feel confident in that, you know, imaginary experience. So all of the senses plus feelings and emotions. And then the last bit of doing it correctly is making sure that you're doing it real time. So when I work with swimmers, I actually have them literally get out their stopwatch and figure out, you know, what time do you want to get? They start it, they do their visualization, everything exactly as they want it, they stop it, and it should be exactly the time they're aiming for. So for you, if you're a gymnast, you do the same thing. If you know your floor routine, you do it with the floor music. If you have the time for the beam, you know, you make sure you're doing it exactly the same as you would in real life, because that's what really gets your brain locked in to feeling like it's really happening. And if it feels like it's really happening and you've gained control of it and it's going well, then the next time you get up to do it, your brain's gonna go, oh, we've done this before. Okay, this is good. I've done this before. It was safe. It was great. So the more that you can do that, the better. So that's kind of the quick overview of ways to build confidence. So that's past performance, vicarious experience, physiological state. Oh, I forgot to mention that one, physiological state. So that's when your heart is pounding, 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 and you are short of breath and you feel like you're gonna wet your pants. Your confidence is gonna be potentially lower, right? So what you gotta do there is figure out how to get your heart to kind of chill out, get your breathing back to normal, get your shoulders relaxed, get back to the way your body would feel if it was calm and confident. So if your body would feel like it was having a heart attack when you're confident, great, go for that. But I'm guessing that's probably not exactly what you want, what you're aiming for. So certain ways that you can get your body to chill out. And now this is what people usually do wrong. They usually go, calm down, it's okay. But that doesn't work because your reasoning, thinking brain is shut off when you're in stress mode, when you're in fight or flight. So what actually works is that breathing, feeling your feet on the ground, getting present, getting into your body, taking a second to scan through and relax the muscles that are tense. And then also imagery can be really helpful. You know, you can think of a time, you know, or a place where you're really relaxed and happy. And then that can allow your brain to go, okay, it's okay. This isn't, we're doing fine. And then as your body calms down, your confidence will go up, because then you don't feel like you're, oh my gosh, I'm going to freak out. What's going to go wrong? So as long as you can kind of do certain things to calm yourself down, then that's better. And those are other things that I teach as well. So we've got past performance, vicarious experience, physiological state, verbal persuasion, that's the self-talk and the cheerleading, emotional state, that's your funky mood, and imagery. So I'm going to give you a little, just a little quick story that some of you guys may have heard and some of you may not have, that kind of wraps it all up with a bow. If you have other questions, go ahead and type them in before I sign off. Otherwise, I'll just finish up after this little story. So there was a runner named Roger Bannister. I'm guessing some parents have heard of this guy and maybe not the kids. He was an Olympian in the 50s, and he had this goal to break the 4-minute mile. Now, I think the record was set at 4:01 in the 1940s. Now this guy is like 12 years later running this 4:01, and everybody's running, you know, as close to 4 as possible, but there's this kind of common conception that it can't be broken, that if you break a 4-minute mile, you might physically fall apart and die. This was what people believed, and there was nobody who'd ever done it, and all these fast, amazing runners, so the assumption was it couldn't be done. And this guy, he went to an Olympic Games and got 4th place, which is like the worst. I mean, yeah, you got to the Olympics, you got 4th place, cool, but like just shy of a medal. It's gotta be the worst. So he was mad. He was like, you know what? I'm gonna show it. I'm gonna prove it to everybody, I'm going to go break that 4-minute mile. And everyone thought he was nuts. And so what happened was he started training, you know, and he saw these guys, he was training with them, and they were getting a little faster, and he was getting a little faster. And then he started to see that it maybe was possible. So he's got this past experience of increasing speed. And then one day, this guy on the other side of the world wanted to get the 4-minute mile. And he's like, oh no, I'm not letting this guy get it. And he goes out and he gets it. So what do you think happens next? Tons of people. In 6 weeks, another guy gets it. And then another guy gets it. And another guy gets it. Because that's that. As soon as somebody proves it can be done, you can do it, you know? And so it just goes to show one of those, like that vicarious experience. As soon as somebody else does it, you can look at it and go, oh, well, I can do it. So that's the power of the team. Okay, so I have a question here. Melissa's asking, what should you do as a parent to help your child get past a mental block when the coach isn't going back to the basics? Okay, so that's a great question. And I did the coach session last week. So if you haven't seen that, go ahead and, you know, watch that. Maybe you can send it to the coach. But here's the first thing to do, and this is one of the exercises I do in the Perform Happy community, where I have a whole training on overcoming fear, and that's at performhappy.com if you want to check it out. But one thing I'll say real quick before I sign off is have your child focus on the controllables. So you can write 2 lists. One of them you'll write controllables. And then you'll write down everything you can control. You know, so this is, I'll give you spoiler alert, but I'd like for you guys to do this, but you know, it's attitude, it's actions, it's efforts. And so everything you can come up with that is within your control. And then another list, a second list, is things you can't control. So the coach kind of goes into this: spotting, mats, equipment, you know, write out as many things as you can possibly come up with that you cannot control, and then take a good objective look at it. And most of the time, that list of things you can't control is the one that contains the most stressful things on it. And then you go back to what you can control. So within the realm of possibility, you know, can you do private lessons? Can you go for open gym and set things up? Can you get a different coach? Can you communicate in a way, you know, there's within what you can control. Sometimes you got to get creative. And I've worked with kids one-on-one who had very difficult coaches, extraordinarily difficult coaches, and they were able to work it out. It's really about knowing yourself, you know, knowing the athlete knows herself and goes, you know what, this is too big, this is too much, I'm not going for it. And that's like, I know if coaches are listening, you're like, don't tell my kid that. But it's getting to know yourself and what is doable so that you can build confidence from there. So feel free to reach out, and this one I can maybe address a little bit more next time because we are out of time. But basically, as a parent, you know, help her focus on what she can control, help her to focus on the things that will help her to build confidence. And then hopefully, you know, as she stops going for things that she's going to fail on and goes for things where she'll succeed, even if her coaches are not being terribly helpful, this over time will start to work. So I hope that answers your question. You guys feel free to send me more questions so that I can be sure to get to them next time. Oh, I have another one, darn. What advice do you have for the athletes who have coaches that move up with them each level, and it's them who's made the athlete lose their confidence? Okay, so that goes along kind of with that same question. I'll make sure to touch on this one a little bit more next week. And then control the controllables, focus on what you can to increase the confidence, and hopefully we can get to that next week. Oh, what do you do when the coach thinks the mental block is a deserve? I don't know what that means. Thinks the mental block is a disease or something like that. Yes. Okay, watch the video from last week on coaches. Send that to the coach, and then I'll get to this one next week. You guys, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to checking in again next week. And if you have questions, send them to Rebecca at performhappy.com, and I'll make sure to get them on the list for next week. Talk to you soon. Bye.